One of my viewers commented that they like my channel because I do a lot of different things. This week is no different. I turn a lot of bowls, but this week it's not a bowl. It's more of a lidded vessel, and it's a fancy one at that. Stay tuned to see how I took this piece of wood, which was nothing more than a piece of firewood, but a very special piece of firewood, and you'll get an opportunity to see what a beautiful piece it turned out to be in the end. All right, let's talk about this piece. It's a piece of firewood. So far, nothing spectacular about it. It's dry. I'm going to turn it end grain again. If you saw last week's video, that was end grain. This is going to be end grain. It's not going to turn easy because it is dry and it's going to be end grain. But this is the reason I'm doing it. It would be small to be a bowl. Again, I'm not into small bowls, but this is the reason. This here is the money shot. It is a piece that broke off. It's got tremendous figuring. It's maple. It's wavy. It's got some flex in it. It's maybe got a bit of spalding in it. A little bit of fiddleback. But that's the beautiful piece. I'm going to try and turn a vase, and this will be the outside wall. So I'm going to try and leave that as a natural piece. So I'm going to try and center this circle here so that I can incorporate this as an untouched outside wall. It's not going to be easy. I've already squared the ends up. Let's get a circle marked on here that matches. Get it started to get rounded up, and then we'll see what we're dealing with. But again, it's not going to be easy to save that, and I hope that I don't end up with a super thick piece, but we'll see. So because I wanted to shift this so that that figured piece was going to be on the outside, I did end up moving it over, and I took it over in my bandsaw and just cut off some of the edges to make it a little more centered. Right now, I have it between centers. I do not have it in my chuck, although the chuck is holding a center. And every once in a while, you'll see that it actually stops. And I just tighten my tailstock up to drive it more into the spur center that's in my chuck. So again, the first step, as usual, is get it round-ish so that I can see what I'm dealing with. Because at this point, even as I round it up, if I see that that figure piece is not centered the way I want it, I can still shift it over a little bit if I need to. And I think I did here a little bit near the end. So here I'm just checking to see if I'm going to make it round at this point, how much I'm going to lose off of the point that's closest to me. So as you watch here, as I come around, that means I'm going to lose a bit. So I am shifting it over here. Now I think you can really see how I was able to leave that window opening of that figured part of the wood. Now down on the bottom, which is up next to my tailstock over on the right, I did end up shortening the piece because there's more there than what I need, and also tapered it significantly. Not to sound new agey, but I did change my mind as I started to turn this. Sometimes, as I'm turning pieces, as they start to shape up, I let the wood speak to me, and this was telling me that it wanted to be a different shape. So I decided to make it more egg-shaped, not a shape that I've typically done in the past, but make it egg-shaped and make a base for it. So you'll see that coming up a bit later, but I do like the way that shape really complements this opening of the figured wood that I was trying to capture. It's also funny sometimes how wood reacts. This wood did not respond well to negative rake scraping, which usually gives me a very smooth surface. So I actually just use my bowl gouge, and you can use your bowl gouge as a scraper. Just tip it over on the side and then just use the wings on it to scrape. And it actually did a better job than the negative rake scraper here did. This did a fairly good job at removing those heavy lines, but left a bit of tear out in the surface itself, which was easily cleaned up with the bowl gouge. As I mentioned before, this is not scraping well, but notice those heavy lines. And I'm just going to take my bowl gouge here, use it like a scraper, turning it over on the edge, and do a pull cut towards me. And you'll see those lines will pretty well disappear. Whatever's left can just easily be sanded. Interesting here. There's a crack right here. And this here piece, I don't know if you can see that, but that was once at this elevation. It's dropped down. More significantly, this is probably spread out and lifted up. That's just wood. It was probably under so much compression that that crack developed and allowed this piece to spring up. So there's not much I can do with that at this point. I mean, I can't glue it. I can't pull it back together. It's just going to be what it's going to be. I've got a little bit of a rough spot here. I'll take that out. But then we'll start hollowing the inside. Now, I don't know if you noticed, my tool was jumping there a bit. First, I thought it was because of this. I don't think so. I think when that piece let go, it went out around, and this was actually a high spot. So I think that's what was causing my tool to jump. I've pretty well taken that out now. This is ready for sanding. It's got a nice smooth surface, and I really like how this window here has stayed open. It's going to be a beautiful piece. Besides that, there is beautiful grain. Look at the opposite side here. Look at the compression grain, the chatoyance right there. I mean, it's a beautiful piece of wood, destined to be nothing other than firewood. Here, I just started sanding as per usual with 80 grit. It was pretty smooth, but this is where I started and then worked my way up to 600 as I usually do. Now I'm starting to hollow it. For hollowing, I usually use my steady rest because otherwise it puts a tremendous amount of strain on your tenon down in the tailstock. So I drilled it out as much as I could to start, and now I've got my hollowing jig. And if you want to look back, I'll put a link here, but I've shown this hollowing jig before on subsequent videos, and it works very well. It's a homemade design. It's a homemade apparatus. I did see others using something very similar online. Now it's fairly deep, deeper than what I can sand, and the opening is not very large. So I just take a piece of sandpaper and a dowel. I cut a slit in the dowel to put the paper in, and it works kind of like a flapper wheel. And then it's quite effective at sanding the inside of this vase. I decided again, because it's got that textured window and I can't put a friction finish on it, that I'm going to go ahead and apply a lacquer finish. And that gives me a nice gloss, which I think will complement this piece fairly well. It did darken it up and bring the colors out here. Again, this is a very beautiful piece of wood. Besides that textured piece, even the remaining pieces of this wood are beautiful in themselves. I decided that I was going to embellish this piece with a cap, top, and a finial. Now, I do not do a lot of finials. I don't use this tool, the skew, very often. And I ended up taking about 20 minutes to turn this finial. I should have turned it probably in about 5. Again, I need a little more practice. The advantage of using a skew, though, is you can get a lot finer detail on a piece, and you can see that here. This would be impossible to do, or next to impossible, at least for me, to do that with a gouge. But this, whenever you see a piece that's got some very fine beads, it would have been done using a skew. I apologize. I did some work off camera. The last thing you saw me doing was working on the finial that you see here on top of this piece. But then after that, I ebonized it. I rub it with India ink, and that gives it the black color. And then I applied a spray lacquer on that as I did on the rest of the piece. I think it turned out very well. I'm pleased with the way that I was able to maintain that rough surface, that wavy surface that was in the original block of wood. Here's the back side of that piece. It's no slouch either. Full of figure, full of grain, a bit of chatoyance down at the bottom. I really, really like the way this turned out. Here's a view from the top. You can see that finial. It's fairly delicate. Yes, there are people that turn them more delicate than this, but I think this is a good balance given the weight of this piece. Because of the lid on the top, I would refer to this as a lidded vessel. Now, my wife, when she saw the piece, she was in love with it, decided to keep it for herself, but told me that the lid would never be on it. She's not a big fan of the lid, but she does like the piece itself. Leave a comment. Let me know what your thoughts are. I would really appreciate hearing from you. And again, thank you for watching, and have a happy Thanksgiving.